Now we will resolve the exercise that tells us to open Excel, to open a previous session, and calculate the totals of annual earnings through the use of the AutoSum function. After that, it will ask us to copy this expression we have made. Logically, we have to solve the previous point through the use of a formula, and we copy it into the corresponding cell so that it also calculates annual expenditure. Then it tells us to delete the formula and do something else. Select the range of cells immediately below the data on monthly income and expenditure and click the AutoSum button to see what is going on. We go to Excel and we have the table that we created days ago. What it tells us is that here we enter an expression using the AutoSum function. The AutoSum function, recall that, like all of the functions, we can call it or invoke it using the Insert function button. But anyway, the AutoSum function, being the most used in Excel, what happens is it is very visible in our Tools section within the Start tab. We have it here. The sigma symbol is the letter that represents the sum. Simply by pressing this button in the cell that we're in, it introduces an expression that we have here in the formula bar. We see that it says equal sum and a range. What range, you might be asking? The one Excel thinks will be appropriate to calculate. Since I'm situated in cell B14, Excel observes that all of the cells above have numerical quantities, except for B1. So it says that by introducing the AutoSum function, the most likely thing that this person wants to do is add together these 12 values. This is why it suggests B2 and B13 in negative. I could change it for any other if this is not exactly what I wanted though. Simply by hitting Enter key, the operations result appears. 36,174. Alright, what it tells us to do is to copy this formula, to copy it in the cell to the right, that of expenses. Why is that? Because it turns out that here we have introduced a reference to the cells above without putting the $sign. That means that we were not using absolute references. That is, they are relative references, which is how Excel works by default. And precisely here we see another example of why it does so. It does it like this because it is very straightforward to copy this formula in the cell to the right or expand the fill pattern. For example, doing so from the bottom right corner and dragging the cell to the right, we have a new sum, this time of all of the cells it has above. This will be useful when it comes to keeping a homogeneous structure in our spreadsheet. Well, I had moved this now here, but I have to copy it instead in order for this whole thing to work as it is intended to. So what it does is keep in mind the relative references. And this is what it asked us for in the very simple use exercise that is the AutoSum function. It tells us at the end to delete it and start a new experiment, this time selecting the 2 or 3. Here we also have the profits that we calculated. Cells in this range, and with the range selected, not with a cell but with the whole range selected, we will click on the AutoSum function. Alright, in this case, what it's going to do is, without telling us anything, it realizes the structure of our spreadsheet, and immediately, without asking for the range, it directly calculates the cells making up this range, each and every one of them. It puts the AutoSum function with the corresponding range. And ultimately, if we have taken care to construct the data table correctly and put the cursor to introduce the AutoSum functions in the cells where it is logical to enter them, which is just after the numerical quantities, Excel will have no problems calculating everything correctly and also very quickly. Thank you all for listening. See you all in the next video lesson.